G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We're going to continue with our series of best 17s for 2023. 2023 is just around the corner. It's going to be a massive year for the North Queensland Cowboys, who I guess they were the biggest surprise packets of season 2022, finishing in third place, a record of 17-7. Incredible stuff. I think the vast majority of us had them tipped for the wooden spoon. If you had them anywhere above probably 12th or 13th, I probably would have laughed at you. And I think my little 5'8", Matty, I think you would have had a little giggle as well, just quietly.
Yep, I thought they were fantastic value for the spoon last year. I didn't get on them, but I definitely had them coming last. And I know I wasn't the only one, so egg on all of our faces. It was a great year for the Cowboys.
I think it is my favourite insult when people say to me, you had the Cowboys coming last year, and I go, I don't know how to defend that. Fuck. Me and everyone else.
Mate. So did you.
Yeah, tell me about it. Anyway, what a season it was for them. Obviously, Toddy Payton, he has done fantastic things up there. I've said it on Bloke in a Bar on a few occasions, got a bit of negative pushback for it, but Matty, I think doing it, one season is fantastic, but if you want to be considered among these top teams in the NRL, you have to back it up year after year after year. I think this will be a huge test for the North Queensland Cowboys. We all saw the tapes last year from their preseason, how wild it was. Sometimes it is hard to emulate that sort of a preseason and back it up once again. But, mate, as we go through this squad, at the end of the day, when you look at the players they've got, the depth they've got, there really is no excuse for the Cowboys not to be a top 8 team once again.
Well, there's been you got a lot of pushback, but like no one's saying they'll go shit. It's just like they have to back it up this year in order to be a good team, like an elite team. Like no one's saying they're going to go bad. I think we've all got them in coming in the finals. And if you look at their squad, which we're about to go through, they have. It's funny, they have a great backline, but they probably had more depth in their backline last year with the Hammer, whereas in this year they've got a great four pack and a lot of depth in there, like a lot of depth in their forwards. So they've got a really, really well-balanced team. So yeah, they should, their goal this year should definitely be top 4, and I'm sure they'll make the finals this year. And
whether you like it or not, history tells us that on average, 2 teams that made the 8 the previous year are going to miss it this year. That's normally how it works out. Now, when I have a look at the top 8 as it stands right now, I would say Penrith, Parramatta, Melbourne, Roosters, South Sydney, they are consistent top 8 teams. They are teams that have shown us that they will make the top 8 year after year for the last half a decade plus. The teams that I look at that I go consistently haven't been probably top 8 sides. The Cowboys are definitely one. The Canberra Raiders can be hit and miss. The Sharkies, to be fair, Matty, they sort of have been a consistent top 8 team realistically. So, the Cowboys and the Raiders are probably the 2 teams that I go, I'm not as confident that they're going to cement themselves in there coming off a good year the year before.
The Sharkies are, but I'm pretty sure all 3 of those teams have only been in the finals once of the last 2 years. Did they? Those 3 didn't make the finals in 2021, did they?
No, but the Sharkies made it, I think, the last 5 years leading up to that.
Yeah, they did. So, they are a consistent top 8 team, but, in more recent history, obviously, they're apart from the top 6 that you said before, or top 5.
So, it is going to be interesting with so many teams that I think are consistent top 8 teams. And, you have a look at the bottom 8. We've spoken about it a lot. Literally, all these teams have improved, probably outside of the Dragons, respectfully to them. So, it is going to be interesting. I think it is going to be a big test for the Cowboys to stay in that top 8 once again. But as I said, they've got the squad to be able to do it. Matty, would you, if I said to you the Cowboys are premiership contenders next year, how would you feel about that statement?
Yes, I would say they are definitely premiership contenders. Are they in my top 4? I don't think so.
Well, history tells us to win a premiership, you've got to be in the top 4.
Yeah, but that is true. I've got a very, very set top 3, very set top 3, and my 4th spot, and that is Penrith, Roosters and South, and my 4th spot is really, really up for grabs between Cowboys, Melbourne, Cronulla, maybe Para, but more so those 3. So I have Para making the bottom of the anywhere from 5th to 8th, probably the lower end. I've got Cowboys, Sharks, or Melbourne grabbing that 4th spot. So I guess it's kind of cheating, but because of that, I have a lot of premiership contenders, and they're one of them. I think they can make the top 4.
For sure. And I think to win a comp this year, like most years, I think you have to make the top 4. If you have a look at, tale of two teams, the Sharks and the Cowboys, two teams that sort of came out of nowhere this year, really impressed a lot of people, played each other, that first week of the finals. Cowboys obviously won that one in Golden Point. They went on to have a really good finals campaign. I think people forget. Probably unlucky not to be playing in a grand final. I thought that game against Parramatta, they got unlucky in a number of situations. But look, on the other side of the tape, you got the Cronulla Sharks who went out in straight sets, and everyone's sort of got their hands on their heads going, what happened to the Sharks? If you're not in that top 4 and if you can't get that week off, life can become very difficult all of a sudden, can't it?
Well, they were busted by the time they had to play week 2 of the finals against South. If they won that game, and what ifs or what ifs didn't happen, Val nailed the field goal, but they could have beaten Para in the prelim for sure.
100%.
So it's crazy how you're never as far away as you think. You're never as good as you are, but you're never as good as people say you are, but you're never as bad as people think you are too. And I think people have conveniently forgotten, I know this is about the Cowboys this episode, but people have kind of forgotten how good, that the Sharks came second in the home and away season. They came second in the regular season. They had a really unfortunate game in the first game and then a really, really poor game in the second game. And people are deciding to remember that, and that's fine. But I think they were very, very impressive last year, and that Valentine home field goal could have changed everything.
I genuinely think that the Sharkies would have been better off in a lot of people's eyes, the way they're looking at them, finishing 5th and losing week 1, than doing what they did.
Yeah, I agree.
Because now people have a chokers sort of tag in them, when at the end of the day, it came down to one play against the Cowboys that changes everything. And, you got to remember as well, Chad Townsend puts in a perfect kick during that game, which credit to Chad Townsend. He's that sort of a footballer. Sharkies get to play a sin bin with about 10 minutes to go. It just turns that game on its head, and it turns their season completely on its head. And people forget they finished second. The Penrith Panthers won 2 more games than them last year.
Yeah. And it's funny, if Sharks won that game and then South pounded the Cowboys, like people probably wouldn't be as high on the cow, even though it's funny how it works. It's funny how it works. Funny how sport works, and that's sport. That's why we love it. But Sharks and Cowboys are not as far away. Like they're very, very close, these two teams.
Yeah, and I question if the Cowboys would have gone out in straight sets, which I think if they would have lost that game, that first final, I reckon there's a good chance that happens. And then we're looking at the Cowboys very differently. But the reality is what it is at the moment. It is going to be a big test to be a top 4 team. I think that they should be a top 8 team. But we have seen this sort of stuff happen in the past. Now, Matty, we'll get into their best 17. And, mate, I think this is one of the strongest squads. I could name you a best 24 here that is all first grade ready and could come in and do a job. Their depth is incredible, isn't it?
There's going to be a lot of good players who miss out, not just on a starting spot, on a spot in the team altogether.
For sure.
It's a really, really strong squad.
And you consider that they just let Hamiso go as well. They just let Tom Gilbert go. These are all guys that have played Origin football. And, mate, when I was writing this squad, at no point did I go, oh, there's a hole there. And they've let go of 2 Origin representatives. It's pretty fucking impressive. Yeah.
And also, have you seen their start to the season?
Yeah, they pretty much don't leave Queensland for 6 weeks.
And they're playing pretty it's a soft run, put it that way. They got Raiders, Bronx, Warriors, Titans, Bulldogs, Dolphins, Warriors, Knights. That's their first 8 weeks.
The hardest team in there is obviously the Raiders, and they get to take the Raiders out of Canberra and send them up to North Queensland in probably 31, 32 degree weather up there.
And they
humid as fuck.
And that was the game last year. That was the game where everyone was like, oh, the Cowboys just upset the Raiders.
Yep.
That was the game which everyone was like, oh, hang on. Yeah, so...
Yeah, good I mean, if the only team you're playing is the Raiders, and they're probably, geographically and conditions-wise, the perfect team to play round 1 up in North Queensland, they're in a very, very good spot. You guys that are Supercoach players, you know how much me and Timmy have been harping on about that early season draw. It is unreal. Obviously, they'll get to the Origin period and they'll lose a fair whack of players realistically, and that's the price you pay for having a successful first grade team. But if they can stack a heap of wins at the start, Matty, they'll put themselves in a really good spot, won't they?
Yeah, if they can be, they'd want to be 6 from 8, absolute worst case scenario.
Yeah,
and they'd want to be sitting at the top of the ladder around that first or second spot, definitely top 4 around that Origin period when they lose those players.
And once again, you get to this origin period, and I mean, the guys they're going to lose, they're very good players, but they've got so many guys ready to come into this side, it's not even funny.
It's crazy. It's such a good squad.
It's wild. Okay, fullback Scotty Drinkwater obviously came from the Melbourne Storm a couple of years ago, arrived at the North Queensland Cowboys last year, without doubt a career year. Didn't start the season as the fullback, was coming off the bench in the early days. Obviously had Hamiso, who was playing fullback, but Drinkwater, once he got the opportunity, took it with both hands, and I thought that, you know, in an era and in a season in particular dominated by just incredible fullbacks and ball players, mate, I thought Drinkwater, his form, I think it flew under the radar a little. So I shouldn't say it flew under the radar a lot. It just flew under the radar to some extent how good his season was, considering he wasn't in the team at the start of the year.
Well, he wasn't in the team at the start of the year, and he ended up 4th in the Dally M's on 23 points.
Wow.
So, like, it's crazy. He wasn't even the fullback.
Fullback in a team that we expected to get the spoon too.
Yeah. Insane.
Very, very impressive.
Like he was people's third choice fullback at that club at the start of last year. Because you got Val, you got Hammer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Crazy.
Yeah, incredible. So, Scotty, and I mean, you have a look also at guys in this team who had career years. Tom Dearden had a career year. I think it's fair to say Val potentially had a career year, or
Val
top
was
one or two.
Fucking great.
Cotto had a career year. Robson had a career year. Taumalolo was right up there. Nanai had a career year, and Drinky still finished at the top of that side for Dally M. Incredible.
So good. I think Val had a career year, but he's definitely had different career years at the Sharks as well.
That's fair. Yeah.
Like that year at fullback he was
I kind of regretted it saying it as soon as I said it. But yes, I completely agree. But even guys like Peter Hiku went to another level. Taulungi went to another level. Chad was fantastic. Like I know he's not a big guy to steal points, but
Taulungi might not have been in my team at the start of the year. Like I had Hamiso on the wing.
Yeah, I think I would have shoved him there too.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, and now he's a kangaroo. Incredible. So yeah, we'll go. So Drinky at fullback, he picks himself there. To be honest with you, the entire back line pretty much picks itself on the wings. Got Taulungi, as we said. We're not sure if he would have been our best 17 at the start of 2022. I really didn't know all that much about him. I wasn't. I'll be honest with you, Matty. I wasn't convinced he was a regular first grader at that point. Had the potential to be, but I wasn't convinced he was.
No, I thought he was like just a good kind of fringy player, but he's turned out to be. He's just got a bag of skills, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's a freak.
Kyle Felt, obviously the premiership winning hero there. Another guy, mate, who I've said a few times, I have a few issues with him defensively, but he just finds a way to score a fucking try. And no matter what the year is, whether they're 3rd or 15th, doesn't matter. He finds a way just to score 10 to 15 tries every single season.
And he's just he's a Cowboy. He's a North Queensland Cowboy. He's a club legend. Yeah.
So Kyle Felt, Taulungi, they pick themselves as centres. Same thing goes. Val Holmes, one of the best players in our competition. Definitely one of the most exciting players in our competition. I love everything about Val Holmes. His transition to centre, it has blown me away, Matty. I was so confident that by round 5 or 6, we'd see Val shifting to the wing or shifting to fullback or shifting anywhere other than centre. Now I am more than happy to say he is one of the premier centres in our game.
Oh, 100%. He was for me, he was the best centre in the comp last year, between him and Joey Manu, but I'd give it to Val last year. He was absolutely insane. That, as we spoke about before, that fullback he had for Cronulla was unbelievable. And for that reason, I agree with you. I thought he was going to be put at fullback or maybe on the wing, maybe, do a couple of kick returns. I don't know, because he's so fucking, makes so much impact back there, but it's amazing how he's just transformed into an elite centre. Like he could be one of the best fullbacks in the game, probably is the best winger in the game, and now he's one of the best centres in the game. He's so versatile in that back line, and he's worth every single dollar they spend on him.
And credit to Todd Payton. I do not recall anyone at the start of 2022 going, Val should be centre. I get what he's doing.
Yeah.
He copped criticism left, right and centre, myself in particular, how wrong we were. Val Holmes is an incredible centre. Peter Hiku arrived to the club over the last couple of years. Would it be fair to call last year a resurgent year for Peter Hiku? But there was games, I think it was that Cowboys game, the Sharks game, where we got to the end of it and I looked at the stats. He'd run for 300 metres. I hadn't noticed.
Crazy. Yeah. He remember he did that. I remember he ran 300. This is kind of random. I remember he ran about 300 metres, 280 metres in 2013 once when he was playing for Manly. And it was it was 20, obviously that's a bit more normal now. But it was when Brett Stewart was injured.
Yep.
in that 4-0 game against the Roosters.
Oh,
Do you remember that? Like one of the
Roger scored.
Yeah. He ran for about 300 meters that game. It was unheard of at the time.
He is such he's just, sometimes you don't even notice he's on the park until you sit back and then have a look at stats, and then you keep your eye on him and you see how much work the guy gets through. I love the way too, Matty, that both these centres, we talk about Joey Mano as a roaming centre, like you wouldn't, probably more so Val, but then there would just be random times where Hicker would pop up on the other side of the ruck and you wouldn't see it coming at all, and he would just chime in perfectly. So as far as his back five goes, I think it's one of the better back fives in the competition. They might not have, the biggest size guys or the biggest superstars outside of Val, but fuck, they're a tremendous back five.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the comp by far. Really, really good and absolutely locked in.
And I think now, it's not something we would have spoken about this time last year, but one of the more consistent back five as well. You just know what you're going to get every single week.
Yeah, exactly right.
They're unreal. The halves... Chad and Dearden, once again, be the first one to admit I sat here next year going, why are they running out with the same guy in both jerseys?
Yeah.
And Chad, he was exactly what I expected him to be, just at a higher level than what I expected him to be. I always thought Chad was going to be good for them, but I thought that with Chad, you needed someone with huge upside next to him to make it work. I didn't think that was Dearden. Fuck, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I just thought it has to be Drinky. It has to be someone that's explosive. Dearden was fantastic all year.
Yeah, and remember Dearden went through that stage when he was at the Bronx and then he moved to the Cowboys when he was the number 7 when they lost so many in a row. So people were like, oh, is this bloke any good, blah, blah. And then it just kind of all snapped into gear and he played Origin. Ended up winning a fucking State of Origin.
He didn't play.
Yeah.
He dominated.
Yeah.
He was incredible in that game for Queensland. His Origin debut in a decider, that tells you all you need to know about Dearden. I think it tells you a lot about the influence of Chad Townsend as well.
Yeah, 100%.
It would have been really interesting. Like, we've seen the influence that Chad has had on Dearden, on how positive it's been. Fuck, it would have been interesting, Matty, if the Broncos would have kept Dearden until Adam Reynolds arrived.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that, to be honest.
Nor have I until 8 seconds ago. And I'm sure most Brisbane fans, if you haven't, you don't want to think about it.
Yeah, they just shut their eyes and...
Granted, they've got Ezra Mam now. I think he's going to be a star. But what Dearden's doing at the moment and what Dearden does on both sides of the ball, very good defender, Tommy Dearden. I'm a huge fan of him now.
Yeah, that's what earned him his Origin spot, really.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, they had him in there for the entire 3 games in the squad. And granted, DCE really stood up in game 3. But Tom Dearden, I think we're all sort of looking at Sam Walker, talking about him as the next guy. I think we forget about Dearden sometimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because obviously Walker's got the flashy play. He'll win you the game, and he's an absolute genuine freak. But yeah, I think that's why people say Walker.
But Dearden's gone to the Origin Arena and won you the game.
Oh, for sure.
And that's, yeah. And to be honest with you, I sleep on him as well in that regard.
Me
so
too.
Going to be an interesting few years. DCE can't play forever in the Origin Arena. I would suggest that this might be his last year as the Queensland 7, but I would have said that last year, to be fair. So maybe Ches has got more in him, but I would say 2 Origin series at absolute maximum left in Ches. Would you agree?
Ooh, I haven't thought about that, actually. I'm
33 years old.
I'm a strictly blue in 2 eyes. I don't really think about Queensland.
Which is why I would have said last year it was Ches's last series. I still think that if they would have lost, I think they would have moved in a different direction.
Yeah.
But Ches, there's no doubting whatsoever.
Fuck, he was good in that game 3.
He was the best halfback on the field in game 3.
Yeah.
Right up there with the best player on the field.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, big couple of years coming up for Tommy Dearden. The forward pack, mate, it does get interesting here.
It's half hours.
It's brutal. I think the front row's easy, then it gets a bit hairy. Ruben Cotter, I thought that he would be the 13 without a doubt, and they've moved Taumalola to the front row last year. They did it the opposite way, which didn't really make sense to me, but I think that simplifying Cotter's game got the absolute best out of him.
Yeah, well, besides yourself, not many people had heard of Cotter a year ago, so it worked. Everything Todd Payton did last year just absolutely worked, and you're right. All he had to do, he's an absolute workhorse. He gets through all that work, and you're right. His role is so simplified, and I think because of that, we're seeing the best out of him, and just let Taumalola be the wrecking ball that he can be.
Imagine a world where a hooker comes through the grades and after his first full season of NRL where he's not injured and everything, he's an Australian front rower. That's legitimately what Ruben Cotter has done.
Yeah, people forget he was a hooker.
He was the Queensland hooker coming through all the grades.
Yeah.
Fucking
Wild.
incredible.
Wild.
He is like the mascot for like Queensland country rugby leagues.
Yeah.
He's incredible, Reuben Cotter. I assume he'll be partnered with the experienced Jordan McLean.
Yeah, agreed.
Fuck, that was tough last year in the Origin arena for him.
So sad. So sad. It was that interview that he did when he was, so heartbreaking stuff.
And I mean, obviously he was heartbroken in that moment, but I think he was also heartbroken. I think if we're calling a spade, I don't know if that opportunity comes around for him again.
Yeah, he's got a few things have to go his way. It's not going to matter how good he plays unless he fucking brains it. But if he continues, yeah, he's going to need a few things to fall into place.
Yeah, a lot of things going to have to fall his way to get that opportunity again. So that's rugby league. Sometimes it's fucking brutal.
Yep.
Another guy in their spine coming off a career year, Reece Robson. Matty, if people have listened to my podcast for a few years, the day the Dragons let him go, I said, fuck, they are going to regret this so much.
Yep.
People said, they've got Cam McInnes. I said, Cam McInnes is a lock. He's not a hooker. And it has played out exactly that way. The Dragons are scrambling to find a hooker still. Reece Robson is on the verge of playing for New South Wales. Cam McInnes is playing 13 for the Sharks and is a skipper over there in a top 4 team. This is one of the great bed shits of all time for the Dragons, in my opinion, and what a win for the Cowboys.
And it's not like he was like flown under the radar. He played for every fucking rep team, Reece Robson. It was him and Blake Brayley in the same squad, in the same team, and because they were both so good, they were both in the team. They ran with 2 hookers in an under-20s game. Robson was always the hooker for like when he played New South Wales. He's always been an absolute like up-and-coming rising star. A lot of raps on him. Why they let him go, who knows? But the Cowboys just snapped up an absolute gem.
It's funny you mention that now Cam McInnes is in the same team as Blake Brayley and you don't even consider him as a 9 anymore.
Yeah. Blake Brayley's their hooker.
Yep.
Crazy.
Wild. So, Robson, a fantastic season last year. I'm not too concerned about him not backing it up. I think he's just tough as nails. He's in a side that will go forward.
I'm not concerned at all. That's the type of player he is. What we saw last year, what you see is what you get. He's tough. He's got good service. He's fantastic. He'll improve again this year. 100%.
I think he's more likely to play Origin this year than he is to fall off a cliff.
Fucking oath.
100%. He's just that sort of footballer. So, obviously, you got Damien Cook. You got Appy, the 2 9s from last year. I think Freddie will run with 2 9s once again. So, I think Robson, I don't know which one he's going to be able to beat out. If there's an injury to either of them, he's straight in. But, Matty, I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe jumps in front of Damien Cook now. I don't know how you feel about that one, but I think there's the potential for it.
I think those... I'm not going to put a prediction out there because it's going to really depend on who the best player. This is Captain Obvious, but because they're all kind of playing at the similar level, obviously Appy just won a couple of comps, but he's moved clubs. Cook's still going really, really well, and he's been there for years. Robson coming up. It's going to be a fantastic 3-way battle for the hooker the first 10 weeks of the year, and everyone from New South Wales should be very excited to see that unfold. And I think it's going to get the best out of all 3 players.
100%. And it will be interesting because obviously Damien Cook, he's got a really tough start to the season.
Yep.
Robson's got just about the dream start to the season. So it'll be interesting how it plays out. Then you got Appy playing in a completely new team that we have no idea what to expect there. So You're right. It's going to be a wild 10 weeks watching these 3 fight for 2 jerseys. Potentially 1 jersey, but I think they'll be fighting for 2.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be like in 2018 when it was Cam McInnes first, Damien Cook for that 10 weeks.
Yeah,
it just went like for the first 5 weeks it was McInnes, and then Cook just exploded, and it was a fun ride to be on, and I'm glad we get to do it again.
And this is exactly where you want to be if you're the New South Wales Blues.
100%.
Yeah, it'll be great. We'll move to the back row, mate. Nanai coming off a career year. He was fucking unbelievable last year. I think me and Timmy went through his stats the other day. I think it was 15 tries in a season. It might have even been more, 17 or something.
17?
I think it was 17. I think you're right, actually. 17 tries for a back rower who, mate, like, to be perfectly honest, I think people forget. I was sitting here in round 5 going, this bloke can't defend. You can't have him in first grade.
Well, he missed 10 tackles in a game, and everyone's like, all right, just put him in reserve. He'll fix it. He'll be all right in the future, like a couple of weeks in Reggie's. He played Origin a month later.
Yeah, and it's easy for people to say, "Oh, it was just one game." He was missing 4 and 5 every week leading up to that as well.
He was missing tackles left, right, and centre. The improvement, like so quickly, was really, really crazy.
Yeah. So what he did,
wow, it was 18 tries.
18 tries was it? Fuck, that's impressive. for a back row. For a winger, that's hectic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unreal. And yeah, the amount of tries he managed to score off kicks, which just like...
Can I say something?
Yeah.
You know he's born in 2003?
You know, it always rattles me, Matty, whenever we talk about these guys and you say their date of birth and you go, fuck, weren't alive for the Olympics.
Oh, wow.
Like he was born 3 years after we had the Olympics.
Jeez.
Just wild. I think that's crazy. And you think about those guys too. If he's born in 03, like he would have no recollection of ever watching Joey, Freddie.
Yeah, true.
These guys play footy. Like I just think that's wild to me that these guys are now playing first grade.
Fuck, he would have never watched Freddie live.
Nope. Wouldn't have watched Joey either.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Wow.
Probably not.
Probably wouldn't remember it at least.
No. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so Nano, I think he's in for another big year. It'll be interesting to see how many tries he does manage to back that up with. I question if we'll get that many, but maybe he's just this guy. I'm very keen to see how he goes this year, mate, because I think that teams will do a lot more homework on him. Yeah. Teams will be a lot more aware of him. And
most of his tries are from kicks, so they've got to figure out how to.
But I reckon that they are fucking hard to defend, though. Especially, and that's the beauty of having a guy like him in your team. Like me and Tim were talking about Suoliti the other day. Like if they do play him at left centre, you're obviously going to kick a heap to the left side. But the beauty of it is now you can drop it on the back rower's head.
Yeah.
So you don't have to kick it to the winger, who's probably also a known jumper or can get in the air. So having this guy just smack in the middle of the field, where you can just kick to anywhere and you know he's going to out-jump whoever it is that's there. Such a huge advantage. So yeah, keen to see how he lines up. The other back row spot is really interesting. Now, I think in their best 17, Leilua, he walks straight into that side without a doubt. Question marks over Leilua. We're not quite sure where all that is at. So if he's not there round one, Hylam Lukey, who I think is in for a massive year once he gets back. He's not due back round 5 to 6. Mitch Dunn, I don't think he is sweet either. He's carrying an injury still, so I don't think you'll see him in the first few weeks. All of a sudden, mate, there's a bit of a shortage on back rowers once you have 3 injuries and a suspension or whatever it might be there. Jack Goz, he's gone up there from the Manly Sea, from the St. George Illawarra Dragon, played reserve grade up there. I've never actually been the biggest fan of Jack Goz. I'm not sure if he'd be the guy that I would pick there, but he could end up being the best option. But, Matty, I've got my eyes on the Fiji lock from the World Cup, Sadrugu. He can play centre or he can play in the forwards. I was so impressed with him in the World Cup. He's the guy that I'd be throwing in there.
Interesting. Jack Goz, he's a bit of a live wire, Kucheski. I don't mind him. I'd probably have him. I probably wouldn't start him. If he's going to be in my team, I'd probably have him on the bench. Interesting. Look, to be honest, I reckon they'll just go safe and go Colin Hess. They might just
the
go.
other option.
Yeah, I think start the year. It's funny how you were like, yeah, it's a shortage of back rowers. If pretty much most other teams had 3 like back rowers injured, they'd be completely and utterly fucked. And the Cowboys have these 3 guys ready to go. Yeah. It's their depth is wild. I would probably go Hess in the starting spot.
I reckon Sadrugu is one of those guys that he'll probably play in both trials.
Yeah.
He'll have 2 opportunities to impress. I reckon he'll be a real smoky to make this side. But as you said, I actually had just Cohen Hess in my front row forwards sort of section. I didn't really think about him as a back rower. But yeah, he would be the safe, probably more consistent option over the last few years. So yeah, that starting back row spot's going to be interesting. I'm sure that me and Timmy will be talking about that a lot on Supercoach because that could be a big opportunity for a few weeks there. Taumalolo in the 13, another fantastic season. He's obviously come off injuries and whatnot the last few years. I was a little bit worried about how he was going to be used at the Cowboys under Todd Payton originally, but mate, however he's done it between Cotter, Taumalolo, Nana, all these guys, he's just found the balance, hasn't he?
Oh, it's like, who won Coach of the Year? Was it?
I think it was Todd.
It was Todd. Yeah, he deserved it. He 100% deserved it for. I mean, Fitzgibbon equally would have deserved it. Yep. Like I think they both deserve to win, to be honest. But what he's done up there and he's just ignored every single critic because there was a lot of them, and he's gone, nah, I'm doing it the way I think, and it's just all paid off.
I'll tell you what really stood out to me, and it's only a small thing, but you know, if I would have said to you at the start of the year the Cowboys are going to need 2 tables at the Dally M medal night, you would have laughed at me.
Yeah.
That's 10 blokes they had to send for different nominations for awards and everything, which, you know, as I said, it's a small thing, but for them to have 2 tables, one being the coach, one being their halfback, their 5'8", their fullback, unbelievable.
Crazy for the spoon.
Yeah,
like what everyone said with the spoon.
It's crazy. You would have had Ruben Cotter there, Taumalolo, and there was pretty much someone there from every like group of positions that you could possibly have. Val would have been there as well. Like fucking wild. All right, this bench, and I've got so many names written down here. It's not even funny. Matty, would you have a utility in this side?
Yeah, I think so.
You probably don't need a 9. It's handy to have a hooker if you want, but I don't think you need it. I think Reece Robson will be, if not 80, very close to 80. But Granville, he can obviously play 9, but he can play a vast array of positions. Remember 18 months ago when Granville played centre and you're like, oh, fuck, he's their best centre.
Yeah.
Then he played fullback. You went, oh, okay, he's their best fullback as well.
How far they've come.
It's unbelievable.
Like they had to put poor Jake Granville just anywhere they needed to put him, and fucking good on him. Fuck, he did a good job for
100%.
him. Yeah.
He was a freak. Another guy that we've spoken about a lot. Could have quite easily got himself a Clive that night.
Oh, he should have won the Clive. He was the best player in that Cowboys team.
Yeah, he was incredible that night. So Granville's still floating around. To be honest with you, Matty, I don't know if it's a bold prediction. I don't actually have Granville in my side. I'd be going for young Tom Chester. I've spoken about him a little bit. He can play sort of fullback, 5'8", halfback. He could jump in at 9 if need be. I think that you will try and run with Robson for 80 minutes. So I'd be given Tom Chester. I think he made his debut. I think he might have played 1 or 2 games last year. I think he's a very, very talented guy that I think is going to be very important for the Cowboys over the next couple of years.
Yeah, look, I haven't really watched him, so I can't really comment. So I back your judgment.
He's a guy that if Drinky, Dearden, Chad, one of those guys get injured for a few weeks and this guy comes in, I think there'll be a lot of clubs that'll be chasing after him.
Yeah, nice.
Very soon after. So Tom Chester, he'd be my 14, but Granville, I don't think you can go wrong there. James Tarmo, he arrives at the club, obviously left a couple of years ago, another premiership winner they've brought back. You would assume this will be his last season. Might not be a huge upside sort of guy, but I think Tarmo, Matty, he picks himself every week, doesn't he?
Tarmo's, he's in the team for sure. No doubt at all.
Yeah, so he's one of the middle forwards, so you have a utility and middle forward. Then you got the next 2 spots. You obviously want to have another middle there. I think Griffin Neame, he'd be our favourite to win that spot. You'd think, Matty?
100%. Love Griffin Neame. He did such a good job for him from last year. He was very, very consistent. I'm happy to lock him in to my bench. Absolutely lock him in.
And that gives you 2 middles. So your other jersey, you can go in a few different directions. You can go with another middle. So guys like Jermaine Tanua-Brown, Cohen Hess, if you didn't pick him on the edge, he comes to mind. Riley Price, who's the son of the great Steve Price, he'll be there and thereabouts. If Jack Goz or Sadrugu don't make the side, they could fill into that role again. So I guess it depends what you're looking for, Matty. But you know, I know that Riley Price hasn't played first grade, but it's a matter of time until he does and until he's a regular first grader. Sadrugu showed in the World Cup that he can handle himself. But, you know, you've got definitely 3 guys there that are consistent first graders that can come into that side and another 2 young guys with huge upside that can come in there as well. So between JTB, Hess, Price, Jack Goz, Sadrugu, who would you sort of be leaning towards, mate, for your last jersey there?
So if Hess is in my starting spot and I've got 2 middles on the bench, Tarmo and Neame and a utility, I'd probably go a back rower because then you got Hess in the team who can play in the middle, and then if you put another middle in there, then there's no real room. Like what if Nanai goes down or something? So I'd probably go either Sadrugu or Jack Kacheski. Tanua-Brown probably just misses out in my team because he got Neame there. I've probably seen more of Kacheski, so that's why I'm going to say him. So I'd probably go Jack Kacheski.
I like him if he's coming off the bench.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want him being a big 80-minute edge player, which I think is what the Cowboys will want. So, mate, but then, I mean, on top of that, we could get to week 10 and Leilua, Lukey, and Mitch Dunn are available.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, half the names we just mentioned on the best aren't even in the conversation.
If they're all available, my 11 and 12 are Leilua and Nanai.
Yep.
Lukey's 100% on my bench in that 17 spot.
I think you'd probably then go Tamu, Neame, and Lukey, I think.
Yeah, and Lukey, yeah. That would be my 17.
So all those guys that we just wrapped might not be in their best 17 when everyone's fit. And I would say that Mitch Dunn, I think he's been very unlucky with injury over the last few years. He's a guy with huge upside as well. So him and Lukey are 2 guys that I wouldn't be surprised to see them come from nowhere, similar to what Tom Gilbert's done recently, similar to what Nanai's done recently, Cotter's done recently. They could, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of this year, the Cowboys lose another forward to another club on a big money deal.
100%.
And it doesn't impact them all that much.
Yeah, they can't afford to keep all these people. They'll lose.
They'll have to lose someone.
Yeah.
For sure. Mate, this team, the depth is incredible. There's obviously, in the back line, we sort of just went through that and just, that side picks itself. And to be fair, when you have a look at their reserves for their back line, you've obviously got Tom Chester, a couple of other guys that haven't played a heap of first grade. Brandon Elliott's probably the only other one there that has played a lot of first grade. You've got Shibasaki arriving back there. He obviously was at the Broncos, went to Newcastle. I think he went to Japanese rugby for a little bit. He's a guy that's got ability, in my opinion. I know he's had some shocking games over the years, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys get some decent footy out of him. You got Jake Burke, Jordan Lipp, a couple of other guys here that we haven't seen, much first grade from them. Mate, you still got Ben Hampton there, which is wild. Like Ben Hampton can cover, he's not a superstar, but fuck, if you have injuries and you got to go to Ben Hampton, could be much worse.
Yeah, 100%. I've always liked Ben Hampton. He's a mix to fix it for anyone.
Right up there with one of the unluckiest guys to ever play a game as well. You go back to the 2016 grand final, he's on the bench for the Melbourne Storm. They lose to the Sharks. He then moves to the Cowboys and loses a grand final on the bench in the same fucking jersey to the Melbourne Storm, the team that he lost the grand final with the year before.
Yeah, poor bloke.
So unlucky, Benny Hampton. Mate, so gun to your head, tell me what spot the Cowboys finish on the ladder. I don't want sort of areas. If you had to put money on a spot, and personally, I would go fifth.
I'm going fifth. I'm going Sharks fourth, Cows fifth, Storm sixth.
Yeah. Storm 6. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't. If Ryan Pappenhausen's 100% fit in round one, they're probably second for me. But I just don't know what the go is there.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Pappy, but that's only going off vibe and the eye. So I'm sure there'll be medical professionals out there with a slightly better idea than us. So we do wish Pappy all the very best. Guys, that will do us for the Cowboys. Best 17. I think this side is going to be dangerous again in 2023, coming off the back of 2022. Very excited to see them go around and very excited to see some of these other guys that aren't in their best 17 get their opportunity throughout the year, the origin period and injuries and whatnot. Very, very exciting times for the North Queensland Cowboys and Toddy Payton up there. We have only got a few more sides left to go through their best 17s. Cowboys got a lot of votes from you guys in the comments. So we'll do another one a little bit later this week. So let us know in the comments if we haven't done your team yet. I think we'll probably save the Dolphins for last, Matty, just to see where they end up, if there is any last minute signings that change anything or whatnot.
Yep.
I know that you spent a bit of time up there with the boys the other day. Looked like a giggle.
Yeah, it was fun. They're good. They're good lads up there. Both the players and all the staff. It was a good night.
Yeah, that's unreal. They had their first trial the other night, which was good to see some of the young guys run around. Hopefully over the next 2 weeks in their trials, you'll see all the big dogs there. But yeah, let us know who you want us to go through for our best 17s. We've only got a couple left. I think Canberra might be one, and I can't remember who else, but there's only 2 or 3 left.
I don't think we've done West Tigers yet.
West Tigers is another one we haven't done.
I'm excited. I reckon let's do that one next.
You want to do the Tigers next?
Yeah, let's do the Tigers next.
Plenty to talk about there. I like that. Yeah. Unlucky if you voted. We're going the Tigers next. So let us know if you want the Raiders or the Dolphins in the ones after that, which will come over the next week or so. Thanks, guys. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, comment, like. And if you're on the podcast, leave us a review. Let someone else know about the podcast. They can come over and have a listen. Cheers, legends. We'll see you next time.